Along the thick beds of bull kelp that grow near Pleasant Island, in the waters of icy Strait Alaska, there exist some unique humpback whales that have started to use a curious feeding behavior not yet seen anywhere else in the world. When this behavior was first documented in 2022, there was only one whale feeding this way, but a year later that number has grown to at least 4. They seem to be learning from each other how to exploit these new feeding opportunities. The kelp beds have been recovering in recent years due to the rise in the numbers of sea otter and the subsequent decline in the kelp-eating sea urchin populations, and this may be what has made it possible for these whales to exploit this new feeding opportunity. When this behavior was first seen in 2022, there was a big question on what type of food that whales were pursuing in these kelp beds, so to get conclusive information we lowered a camera at the edge of the kelp. These kelp beds provide vital cover to millions of small fish, and these fish are the target of the humpback whales. On a high tide, the fish retreat to the middle of the kelp bed, and the whales seem to follow them, rooting around in the top of the kelp trying to find schools of them to eat. While on a low tide, the center of the kelp bed is exposed to the surface, providing haul-out opportunities for seals and other animals, and the whales and fish seem to move to the edges of the kelp. What makes this behavior so curious is that the whale's typical strategy of lunge feeding doesn't work here. There are too many rocks in the shallow water and too much kelp for them to lunge feed without running into one or the other. So these whales have modified their behavior and instead very deliberately insert their open mouths into places where they know the schools of fish are, with the occasional use of their pectoral fins to fan about and drive the fish into their open mouths. This strategy is also supplemented by tail thrashing and bubble blowing, possibly working under the principle that panicked bait fish make poor decisions, and by frequently lifting the front of the face out of the water, which may allow any kelp in their mouth to slide out while still retaining the fish. There must be some benefit to this behavior, as these whales will periodically move offshore to feed in more conventional ways when the tide levels are not favorable, but when they do have the opportunity, they are instead choosing to feed in the kelp. It's possible that this practice may be more efficient than regular lunge feeding, as it might take less exertion to feed this way, slowly working around the reef, than would be to try to actively pursue open water fish such as herring that may be faster and more evasive. Regardless of why they do it, this feeding technique changes much of what we thought we knew about humpback whales, and gives them more credibility for being adaptable in an ever-changing world. It also makes us wonder if these whales might be using similar techniques at greater depths than what we can see with the drone, and if this behavior is more widespread than we thought. It could be their standard technique for feeding on anything that is close to the ocean floor or other obstacles, and it's only now that we've been able to observe it because they moved it shallower. Only time and more research will tell.